Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Jacqueline Pollauf and I'm so glad that you've joined me today for the third concert in my spring concert series. Today's program is award-winning compositions. I'm going to be playing 4 pieces, all of which won the same mid-20th century composition competition. And the concert will last about 30 minutes. At the end of it, I will stay around to answer any questions that you might have. The chat is open if you'd like to say anything throughout the concert. And the program is below in the description, so you can see more details there about the music that I'll be playing. So the composition competition, to tell you a bit more about that, was run by the Northern California Harpists Association. And they established this composition competition for a new work for the harp. And many composers are quite intimidated by composing for the harp. It's a quite unique instrument, and being able to compose well for other instruments doesn't necessarily mean that you'll be able to compose well for the harp. So one thing that the Northern Harpists California Association did when they started this competition was they had their members, these harpists, work with the composers directly to make sure that their pieces would suit the harp well. And I think they did an excellent job with that. As the competition expanded and they drew more of an international pool of applicants, they weren't able to work with as many composers directly, but they did ask composers to provide a live recording of their work, so something played by a harpist, so that way composers had the chance to work with a harpist of their choosing and make sure that their piece would really suit the instrument well. And the first piece that I wanted to play is a piece called Apunte, Betico. It was written by Gerardo Gombau, and he was a Spanish composer. He was actually professor of composition at the Madrid Conservatory, and he wrote a piece that is very dramatic and flamboyant, very much in the Spanish style. I think it's really reminiscent of a Spanish guitar, actually. One interesting thing about this piece is that throughout it, the hands work in conjunction a lot. So for most of the piece, my hands are quite close together on the strings. They're always kind of moving in a pair. And a lot of what I'm playing is trading off between the hands, or it's very complementary between them. So I'm going to go ahead and play that. As we keep going, I'll tell you a bit more about the other pieces in the program. I'm excited about how diverse they are. Each one is written by a composer from a different country. So here's the first one, Apunte Betico by Gerardo Gombau. All right. Well, I should mention that some of these pieces that won this competition are not terribly well known in the harp community anymore. So I really had a lot of fun seeking them out and picking some music that was quite new to me to learn, like that first piece that I just played. It's a new piece in my repertoire and I really enjoyed working on it. The next piece that I wanted to play is a piece by Becker. She was an American composer and cellist. I believe she actually lived most of her life out on the West Coast in the San Francisco area. And she played for a while in a harp, flute, and cello trio, which sounds like a lovely combination to me. And she was in charge of arranging a lot of music for that trio. So I think that would be excellent training in composing for the harp. Then she also had a chance to study with Nadia Boulanger in France. Nadia Boulanger was one of the foremost composition teachers of the 20th century. And after that, Becker wrote a couple of solo pieces for harp. One she wrote that I've played quite a bit is called the Fontainebleau Suite, really a fun piece. And then the one I'm going to play today is called The Legend of the Redwoods. And this piece actually was the first piece to win this composition competition, the Northern California Harpists Association Award. She worked with harpist Anne-Louise David on it, who is quite well known in the harp community. And it's a really beautiful piece, very sweeping and grand, quite majestic, I would say. Unlike the composer we just heard, who was using the hands a lot kind of as a pair, in this one I think Becker was really viewing the harp as kind of a large canvas. So there's a lot of moving to the different registers of the harp and really taking advantage of the whole range of the harp. After this piece won the composition competition in 1950, a year later Becker came out with a revised edition of it, and that's the version that I'm going to play today, the revised edition. I have both editions, and there's not any big structural changes between the two. It's just some small kind of differences in the way you might do an arpeggio here or there. So here is Legend of the Redwoods by Becker, and I think this really gets the majesty of the redwood forest across. So following that, we're going to move in quite a different direction. This next piece was written by a Dutch composer named Lex van Delden, and he had a really fascinating life. He was born in 1919 under the name of Alexander Zwap, and as a child he was really musical, but he decided that he wanted to study medicine. So he began to pursue that, but he was interrupted by World War II, and as he was Jewish, he went into hiding and joined the resistance. Really sadly, most of his family ended up dying in the Holocaust, but he survived, and after the war, he changed his name from Alexander Zwap to Lex van Delden, which was similar to an alias he had used during the war. And he really threw himself into music and into the musical scene. And he started composing quite a bit. He actually won the Northern California Harpists Association Award twice in the 1950s. The first time was for a harp concerto, and the second time was for the piece I'm about to play called Impromptu. This is probably the most dissonant piece on the program today. There's a lot of sort of surprising notes and harmonies throughout it. I think it's really a dark and rather mysterious piece. And it's written in 3 sections. You'll hear a slight pause between those 3 sections. And each one starts with the same 4 chords. So you'll hear it come back to these 4 chords. And within the sections, there's a lot of different gestures. Many arpeggios, a few glissandos, and harmonics. Some of my favorite passages are passages where the melody is played in octaves up in the higher part of the harp, and then you'll see me jump down to do these low chords to accompany it. So there's a lot of jumping back and forth in those passages. One thing I've really enjoyed about learning this piece, this is a new piece for me, is that the music that I purchased is handwritten. And most pieces that I purchase are computer generated in one way or another, which is great because they're so easy and clear to read. Normally, I'm not a big fan of things being handwritten because they can just be a bit difficult to decipher. But this is handwritten really beautifully, and it's very clear throughout. I think he spent a lot of time and care with making it so legible. But then you can also see these distinctive traits in sort of the musical handwriting throughout it. I think it's similar to having a letter handwritten in a really beautiful, maybe cursive script. So at the end of the program, when I come closer to the computer for some questions, I'll show everyone the score so they can see kind of the distinctive style of Lex van Delden's handwritten score. So here is Impromptu by Lex van Delden. So I wanted to thank everyone so much for coming today. I have one piece left to play. Before I play that, I just wanted to say that I hope you've all enjoyed the concert as much as I have. And there's information about how to make a voluntary donation down in the description, either through PayPal or through Venmo. And donations of any amount are really appreciated. Just to give you an idea of some upcoming events, tomorrow I'll be hosting an online workshop for students about building harp technical skills. And then next month's concert will be a concert of the music of composer Claude Debussy. That will take place on May 21st, and that will be the last concert in the spring series. So I hope you'll be able to join me, but there will be more concerts forthcoming. I'm hopeful that after this spring, I'll be able eventually to start performing live again, but I'm planning to also continue performing online as well. So this last piece on the program is the Petite Suite by David Watkins. And David Watkins is the only composer today who is also a harpist. David Watkins was born in 1938, and he is a very illustrious harpist with all kinds of orchestral and solo credits to his name. And he also composes a bit. This Petite Suite is probably his best known work for the harp, and it won the Northern California Harpists Association Award in 1961. So there are three pieces to the suite. It starts with the prelude, which is quite sunny and cheerful, and then after that there's a nocturne, and this is quite a bit slower. And I think it's a bit unsettling, maybe a bit of a scary night. It doesn't quite sound like the peaceful atmosphere that so many nocturnes have. And then the suite ends with a piece called Fire Dance, which is really fast and energetic and has a lot of interesting rhythms layered on top of each other. So thank you again for coming. This will be the Petite Suite, and then if you'd like to stay around after that, I'm happy to answer some questions at that point. All right. Well, thank you all so much. Whew. It's lovely to see so many people here and such great comments. I'm just going to kind of scroll through them and see all of the things people have to say. Oh, I see some comments about the harmonics. There were a lot of harmonics throughout this program. Also a lot of glissandos, which was beating up my fingers a little bit this week, but that's all right. Oh, I see a comment about the fire dance being similar to Salzato's works. Very much so. I think David Watkins was really inspired by a lot of Salzato's works. Yeah, so let's see if anyone has any questions. There's a bit of a delay between when this goes out, about a 20-second delay between when I'm here and when you're getting it. So there might be questions coming in that I just haven't seen yet. Oh, thank you so much for all the lovely comments, everyone. That's really great. Oh, and it's nice to see some people I haven't seen in a while. Thank you for being here. Okay, so I mentioned a little bit ago about the handwritten score, so I wanted to go ahead and show everyone that because I think it's so beautiful. So here is, this way, Lex van Delden's score, and you can see here it is. So it looks really perfect. When I first glanced at it, I thought it was computer generated, but when you look closer, you can see these little sort of distinctive things in the writing, and it's really well done. So there's that, so everyone can see it. I feel kind of like a children's librarian at the moment. Yes. Oh, we've got a question from Janet. I have performed the David Watkins piece before, but it's been quite a while. So when I sat down to play it, I had to kind of get it back from scratch, but it's so much fun to play. The other thing I wanted to show everyone is actually, so the Legend of the Redwoods that I played, I have this copy here that's actually signed by Grace Becker Venmo, which I was quite excited about. I found this on eBay. I don't shop on eBay much, but it seemed like a great opportunity for something like that. And you can see also it's got this bit at the top about how it won the composition competition. So very exciting. Yes. All right. Does anybody have any other questions today about any of the music or composers or the composition competition? I'll just give people a moment to put something in the chat. Okay, so Paige wants to know if I will make a recording. I would be happy to make a recording. Paige, are you referring to the entire program, or did you have a favorite piece on the program that you wanted me to record? But hopefully over the summer I'll have a little bit more time and I'll be able to make some YouTube videos of some of these pieces that I've been playing this spring that I don't already have YouTube videos of. That's definitely on my list. All right, Lori has a question about what makes a composition award-winning versus just a contender. I mean, anytime you have any sort of competition, it's really up to the jury what they're going to, use as their criteria and how they're going to rank everything. And I think frequently in competitions, there's multiple things that could be a winning composition, and some of it just comes down to personal preference. But from the time I've spent with these 4 pieces, which is certainly not the entire body of work that won this competition, it looks to me like the committee was really emphasizing works that worked well on the harp. They're all very playable. I mean, some of them are challenging, but they work well, and they really use the instrument, I think, in ways that suit it. So it never feels like you're kind of fighting against what the composer wrote, or trying to create something that's not really there in terms of the amount of sound they give you or anything. So I think they're beautifully edited for the harp, and I really appreciate that. Personally, I also just think all of the pieces are really distinctive and fun too, so maybe the committee was looking for that as well. Okay, then we have a question about about how I got a harp when I was young. I was able to talk my parents into it. So the way the story goes is this: when I was 5, I first saw a harpist perform. It was actually a harpist and flutist duo came to my school, and I was really inspired. So I asked my parents when I got home from kindergarten if I could play the harp, and they were a little bit skeptical. So eventually we compromised on piano lessons, and I really enjoyed playing the piano, but I still wanted to play the harp. So I think really I just kind of just kept coming back to it over time. Anytime that my parents would take me maybe to see the Nutcracker or something, and there would be a harp, I would bring it up all over again and just keep asking. And I think a lot of families are just a little bit unsure of how to get started with something like the harp, because it's not as common as, say, playing the flute or, the trumpet or something. So it can just be a little bit intimidating that way. But eventually, they said that they would at least look into it. And once they started looking into it, they found me a teacher, and she was able to help find a harp for me to rent. So it all went smoothly from that point on out. Okay, then we have a question about, do I ever improvise? I do improvise sometimes. Actually, a while back here in Baltimore, we had a free improv collective, quite eclectic, but I was a part of that. And the way it would work is once a month, there would be a free improv concert. So you'd get rotated through, or maybe it was weekly. I think it was weekly, not monthly. And they'd put together these small combinations of instruments, maybe just 4 or 5 instruments, really bizarre combinations. And then you would show up at this small venue and spend an evening improvising together. So I played with a lot of instruments I haven't played with otherwise in doing that. I think I played with banjo at one point and a pedal steel guitar, played with some DJs and some MCs, some rappers. So it was a lot of eclectic style instrumentation. And then the improvising was really interesting because we would all just, sit down on stage and somebody would start playing and then you would kind of jump in. So I do enjoy free improv from time to time, but it's not something I do a lot of. It's just something I kind of do once in a while. All right. Any other questions from anybody? Again, it's so nice to see so many people here, and thank you for all your lovely comments. I'll have to go through and read all of them. All right. Well, thank you all for coming. I hope to see you next month. May 21st will be the music of Claude Debussy. And I'm really looking forward to that. And I hope everyone enjoys their weekend and that you're all doing well wherever you are.